Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Leadership Void podcast. I'm Enrique with my co-host Vince to bring you the best in our veteran, military spouse, and first responder community. And Vince will introduce today's guest.
Oh, yeah. I wish I could do a drum roll. So, yeah, we have Michael Waldrop. He is the founder and CEO of Blue Cord from the greater here Orlando area. But we're here celebrating Veterans Day with this awesome veteran. So, Michael, let's start off. Just tell us a little bit about you.
Well, let's see. I was born in Mount Pleasant, South Carolina. Growing up, I was taught to earn anything that you wanted in life, and the harder you worked at earning it, every so often you'd be given some blessings along the way and some luck along the way. I grew up. My heroes in life were my father and grandfather. My grandfather stormed the beaches of Iwo Jima. Marine Corps, and carried shrapnel and bullet fragments in almost the exact same location in his leg that I did till the day he died. My father was enlisted in the United States Navy at 17 and became an officer, and retired when I was a year old, and became the director of the museum, the USS Yorktown in Charleston Harbor, and was just really blessed with an upbringing in and around veterans all of my life, and interacting with them and meeting them and hearing all the stories and all the lies, and just grew an admiration for our service members and our heroes of our country. Was a bit of very much a wild child. Fortunately, I didn't get into too much trouble as an adolescent and young adult, probably because I didn't get caught. But when the time came in my life, when I realized I needed more than what I could provide, I decided to enlist as a private in the United States Army.
And what a rich history, Marine Corps, Navy, Army, and I'm going to throw Vince in there because he's Air Force and that complete us all. But, thanks to your family for the sacrifices they made. I am a plank owner of the USS Iwo Jima, LHD-7. So your grandfather has a place in my heart right now, and so does your dad for his naval service. You had a rich history there. You decided to go into the military yourself, and undoubtedly both from your upbringing and all the leaders that you had in the Army, you learned some leadership moments, those pivotal moments that will navigate you throughout your career. Would you care to share some of those with us?
I think looking back in time, I think learning what not to do was as important as learning how to be a leader. And I think a lot of that was just through observation of poor leaders and making a mental note in my mind that is, if I was ever in an opportunity for command, which later on in my career I was, that was not how I was going to treat other soldiers. That's not how I was going to lead other soldiers. And again, just blessed with a background in a childhood in a young adult life to be able to witness so many incredible heroes and leaders, and understanding that the greatest leaders are the servant leaders. I always tried to adapt to that and understand when to sit down and shut up, and when to stand up and raise your voice and over a concern. And so I think watching poor leadership is probably, and making those mental notes is just as important as learning how to become a good leader. And I'm very fortunate being an entrepreneur, being in the big industry, business, with my military background, that I was blessed with an opportunity to witness so many different types of amazing heroes and leaders, and some pretty poor ones as well along the way.
Well, you know, you talked about honoring those heroes that we still do. Hence why we're talking about Veterans Day, a great day for all of us. Those who sacrificed, those who are here, and those that will hopefully continue our legacy. And those leaders that you refer to, Michael, let's narrow them down in your career in the Army or the military. Who was instrumental or impact you while you served?
I will tell you what, I'll relate that to my combat experiences. You know, like both of you gentlemen and so many other heroes we know, you know, we sign an oath to serve and protect and to defend the Constitution of the United States. And we decide to make that commitment to serve. And that commitment continues, certainly. But when you enter the battlefield space and you're in contact and combat is around you, you know, why are we there? Why do we do the things that we do in those moments under fire? Why do we run to the sound of gunfire? And it dawned on me real quick, probably, you know, after my first firefight, is that we do it because of the man on my left and the man on my right. And they do it for me, and they do it for the man on their right. And we fight for each other. And I had an opportunity with a pretty unique operation in southern Afghanistan to serve alongside with members of the Afghan National Army, Special Forces community, NATO soldiers from Britain, Australia, Canada, and so many others that when the bullets start flying, you know, the most impactful people in your life and the ones you admire and look up to so much are the ones that you're protecting on your left and right. And more often than not, yes, they were either coalition soldiers or they were my senior NCOs. They were my brothers and I was theirs. And we fought for each other as brothers. Yes, never left behind the idea that we serve to defend and protect our communities and our country and our Constitution. But when the bullets start flying and you run to the sound of gunfire to engage a target, you're doing so because of the man on the left and the man on the right. And those people in my life, those NCOs of mine, those Special Forces comrades that fought alongside us, they were by far, and still to this day, to be quite honest with you, probably the most impactful people of my life.
And an impactful period and events, right, that make us close and make us family. You know, we all refer to each other as we're celebrating this Veteran Day period in the year as brothers, and we always brothers, sisters. It's something and a bond that you just cannot explain lest you're there and are able to live it so that you can try to explain it. And you know, our nation just went through an election period, and there's a lot of new faces, a lot of same old faces, and familiar faces. But our nation is going through a change. Our military undoubtedly will go through some changes as well. And I wanted to ask, what are your thoughts regarding the future of our armed forces as we go into the future?
That's a good question. As I think about that question, I again refer back to battlefield space. Certainly, I think that the United States military has important concepts around our military forces, that camaraderie and that culture that we have to maintain. But if you look at the battlefield space and the evolving and the challenge of the men and women that are going to be boots on the ground, I relate to it a lot to the Ukrainian conflict right now, the war against Russia and the Russian invaders. I watch it every day. And if you think back in history, you know, at the wars that we served in and how ill prepared we were to defend against improvised explosive devices at the time. Were IEDs new? No. the punji sticks and holes and trip wires in Vietnam and so many others. I mean, are IEDs a new concept? No. However, we were so ill prepared to defend against a threat like that, and that's just one example. However, we were so much better trained. I remember a lot of the training that we received as combat lifesavers. I remember a statistic that was thrown out at me taking a combat lifesaver course is that if our brothers and sisters before us in the Vietnam War had the training that we had during that time, we could have probably have saved 10,000 more casualties due to stopping bleeding, opening airways, and that type of training. So fast forward to today, and you look at today's current conflict, and I study it, and you think about tomorrow's conflict. It's a satellite war. It's a drone war. It's catching the Russian military off guard. It's catching the Ukrainian military off guard. I think that and again, I always relate it to the boots on the ground. You know, will there be one day that we don't have pilots? Maybe. However, there'll never be a day where a man has to potentially kick a door in and either eliminate a threat or grab him by the throat and take him away of somebody who's a threat to their community, to their country, to our country. That'll never change. However, getting to that point and being able to properly defend against improvised explosive devices, drones, satellites, it's a hope that we're well prepared and well established to handle the next threat and the next conflict that we're in. Because look at the evolution just in 15 years. Look at what we should have known and should have been able to defend against with. Imagine if we had a better way, or today's way, to defend against IEDs. Imagine the casualties we could have prevented in OEF and OIF. So my hope for the future of the United States military is to maintain that culture, maintain that camaraderie, maintain that esprit de corps, but always be forward thinking with the next threats to mitigate our risk and to be able to successfully defend and protect each other and in our nation's constitution.
I totally agree there, Michael. You know, the evolution of what we've seen and encountered and how we're preparing for the next threats is so impactful and imperative as we go through the next 5, 10, 50, 100 years. So yes, great thoughts, great pearls of wisdom there. Let's narrow down to talk about the pearls of wisdom that you had while you were in the military. Please share with our audience your pearls of wisdom of your time while you were in leadership.
Well, I don't know to it as pearl coming from me, but I appreciate that, Vince. I think two things come to mind when I think of that. And number one is purpose. I'm a big believer and studier of purpose. I truly believe that each of us are planted on this earth for a purpose. And that purpose is to serve in some capacity. I believe every organization, every team, every business has more of a social responsibility and more of a purpose than just the balance sheet. I've seen so many successful men and women, and I take as many mentors as I possibly can along the way. And I've seen so many business leaders be so wealthy and successful in business, but just lack a sense of purpose. However, I'm very blessed and feel lucky that the reason why I exist and have been planted on this earth, along with our nonprofit, the Camaraderie Foundation that I founded, and our businesses, is that my purpose is to serve the veteran community. It's very clear. It gives me clear direction in how I live my life and how I serve. I think that from a leadership standpoint, I see, and I've mentored many either incoming or outgoing future service members or current service members that are coming back into the civilian life. And my message is always the fact that, you know, your service is not over. Just because you put that uniform up in the closet does not mean that your life of service is over. We've got to pray and think and seek our purpose in life. And it doesn't have to be that we don't have to serve in the military. We don't have, I don't care if it's your local library, but your passion and your purpose in life needs to continue an aspect of service in some capacity in all aspects of our life. And in my mind, my most recent word that I've been really kind of studying and leaning on is legacy. When we're dead and gone, what is our purpose and what is our service to our community, and how are we going to leave a better footprint for the next generation? So I think finding purpose, continuing to serve through that purpose with a focus on making our world a better place and leaving a legacy behind, not for the recognition. I'm talking about making our communities, our families, giving better opportunity in life and making this world a little bit better of a place.
Indeed, you have definitely shown that you're living a life of purpose. You mentioned several of the organizations that you have founded and have helped usher into our community for that specific charge of service, right? And you are definitely adding on to the legacy. We had a sister, an Air Force sister, GI, share with us, leaving deep footprints, and you, Michael, are doing indeed just that. Now, you mentioned those that are coming in, those that are you're mentoring, and you're helping those that are trying to decide or are deciding to enter the military. And as we celebrate this Veterans Day, one day those individuals will become veterans and after service. So what leadership tips or advice you have for those coming in or considering entering the military service?
I've spoken to a couple of those points, but I think also what I try to share with those that serve and seek my counsel on anything is to number one, continue to serve, but to utilize the voice that we have to make a positive impact. And I don't think that most service members and veterans, I mean, how many veterans do we come across tell us that they're not veterans because they weren't deployed in a combat zone at some point in time? No, you signed that oath. You put your name on that line. You gave your service to our country. You are a veteran. And on the heels of on a midterm election night, I don't believe that enough of us are using the voice that we need to make our world a better place than what needs to happen. And I think a lot of people don't, a lot of veterans don't understand, wow, what do you mean I have a powerful voice? Well, you do. And we need to channel those voices in positive lights and positive missions to make a positive impact in our communities, our states, our country. And don't lose sight of the fact that you have earned your service. And if you're going into the military, you are going to earn your service. Do so honorably. And I think that with that mindset, we can make so much more of an impact and legacy to leave a place for the next generation and our kids and grandkids and your kids and grandkids than what we have today.
Absolutely. To those coming in, earn your service and lead honorably, right? And have a positive impact. A great advice and tips. You know what? We could talk for hours about about great things about our own legacy we're leaving, our deep footprints as you're doing, Michael. But folks on calling in, listening in, how do they get a hold of you, Michael, or Blue Cord LLC?
Sure. Pretty simple. I mean, we have a pretty decent social media presence. I mean, these days in the art of Google, you can find just about anybody. But Blue Cord has got a social media presence through LinkedIn, as you all are aware, and many other platforms. My contact info is there as well. I always try to be responsive to anybody and everybody, and so people are he message me at any given time, and I would be honored to be as responsive as I possibly can. Obviously, these days you're checking Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook message, emails, texts, phone calls. So it's hard for me sometimes to keep up with, but it's pretty. I try to be pretty easily accessible and completely responsive to anyone that I could ever help.
Well, we will make sure to have all the information that they require to be able to do that connection with you as part of the video and show notes. Folks will have that on there. And if you want to contact us at the Leadership Void podcast, it would be the Leadership Void at gmail.com. And you will be able to reach Vince and I if you have a request on a leadership topic you would like for us to cover, or a special guest that you would like for us to interview. You'll do that way, and we'll consider that. But thank you for being with us, Michael.
Hey, gentlemen, thank you for what you're doing. I've watched a lot of your previous podcasts, and I hope many others do, because it's inspiring, and we need to tell these stories. You've got a wonderful blessing to be with, to spend time with a lot of wonderful heroes. Which is amazing, and I appreciate what you all are doing with this podcast and making our world a better place. And most importantly, thank you for your service. And both of you, I hope you have a very memorable Veterans Day. Thank you.
We appreciate those sentiments there, Michael. We'll echo the same to you, because you exist to serve, as you mentioned, the veteran community, and you have done it time and time again. And one other thing we'd like to mention, we're grateful for our sponsor, VEI, hosting this wonderful podcast. And also, we do bring our community together on Radio Check every 1st and the 15th at 1900, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard, on LinkedIn Live. First responders and military come together. We just break bread, talk about how to impact and serve each other. So come and check us out on the 1st and 15th. But today, Veterans Day, we have a great vet here. Michael, thank you again, as Enrique mentioned, for the service and all you have done.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate y'all.